The silence of death. There are places so quiet, they feel unnatural. No birds, no trees, no wind rustling leaves, just stillness. At first glance, these places may seem ordinary, a lake, a coastal region, an empty field. But if you listen closely, you'll notice what's missing. Life, completely absent. These are the dead zones, real places, born from nature or carved by human hands, where nothing grows, breathes, or survives. Some are ancient, others are spreading right now. In this documentary, we take you deep into the most terrifying geographical places in America, from underwater graves in the Gulf of Mexico to lakes that bubble with deadly gases. These aren't legends, they're scientific realities with apocalyptic consequences. You may never look at a map the same way again. The zone where the ocean dies off the coast of Louisiana in the Gulf of Mexico. There's a stretch of water larger than the state of Connecticut. It looks calm, it looks blue, but it is empty, devoid of fish, of shrimp, of coral, of life. It is one of the largest hypoxic zones in the world, better known as a dead zone. What causes it? Pollution. Fertilizers from American farms wash into rivers. Those rivers pour into the Mississippi. The Mississippi flows into the Gulf, and with it comes nitrogen and phosphorus, elements that create massive algal blooms. These blooms decompose, sucking the oxygen from the water. Without oxygen, marine life suffocates. Each year, this dead zone grows and shrinks, but it always returns, like a seasonal ghost. Some scientists warn it's becoming permanent. Mono Lake, the lake that shouldn't exist, travel to California's Mono Lake. A salty, alkaline body of water that shimmers under the desert sun. It has no outlet. Rivers flow in, but nothing flows out. Instead, minerals build up, making the lake inhospitable to most life. Stand on its shore and you'll see strange formations, tufa towers, limestone spires rising from the water like the bones of giants. The landscape feels post-apocalyptic. Fish can't live here. Most plants avoid it. But there's something even more unsettling. In 2010, NASA discovered a bacteria in Mono Lake that uses arsenic instead of phosphorus to survive. Arsenic, a poison to almost all known life. Mono Lake isn't just dead to most life. It hosts life that shouldn't exist. Alien-like, toxic, resilient, a glimpse perhaps of Earth's darker side. The invisible killer in Lake Nyos, and could it happen in America? In 1986 in Cameroon, Africa, 1,746 people died in one night. There was no war, no bomb, just a mist. Lake Nyos released a sudden invisible cloud of carbon dioxide. Heavier than air, it rolled down the valleys and suffocated everything, animals, humans, even insects. Survivors described the silence as the most horrifying part. Could this happen in the United States? Yes. And the closest analog is Lake Kivu in East Africa, which is being studied to prevent a similar event. But in America, Yellowstone Lake poses a distant but chilling threat. Beneath it is magma, gas, pressure. If that pressure shifts, as it has in the past, the result may not just be volcanic, it could be suffocating. The dead zone wouldn't come from ash, it would come from air you can't see. A silent killer. Radioactive dead zones in the United States. We often associate radioactive wastelands with Chernobyl, but the US has its own, Hanford Site, Washington, a decommissioned nuclear production complex. Miles of land contaminated with radioactive waste from Cold War-era plutonium manufacturing. Soil that still hums with radiation, rivers that can't be fished. A place the government buried, but didn't forget. Nevada test site. Between the 1950s and 1990s, the US detonated over 1,000 nuclear devices here. Above ground, underground, the desert glows at night in local folklore. But the scariest truth? Some of that radiation is still present. Some animals in the region show mutations. Some regions are too dangerous for extended human activity. These zones may be silent, but their history screams. Salton Sea. Death in the desert. Southern California's Salton Sea was once a tourist destination. Beaches, boating, sunshine. Now, the fish are mostly dead. Birds fall from the sky. The air reeks of decay and chemical rot. Locals suffer high rates of asthma and lung issues. Why? A mix of agricultural runoff, trapped toxins, and evaporation. The lake is receding. What's left behind is a toxic dust bowl. Scientists warn that the Salton Sea could become one of the most dangerous public health zones in America if nothing is done, yet little is done. Dead zones aren't always underwater. Sometimes, they blow in the wind. The zone that sinks, sinkholes of the South. Imagine standing on your front porch and watching the earth open beneath your feet. Cars, houses, entire streets vanish. This is not science fiction. This is Florida. Much of the state is built on limestone. Water erodes it from beneath, creating massive underground voids. When the surface collapses, the result is catastrophic. Sinkholes. Some are small, others are wide enough to swallow a building. These zones of sudden collapse are spreading. Real estate built over unstable land is increasingly at risk. Entire communities fear the quiet horror beneath their feet. You can't hear it, you can't see it, but it's waiting. Ghost towns, where geography forced humanity out. Dead zones aren't always created by poison. Sometimes geography just wins. Centralia, Pennsylvania. In 1962, a fire was set in a landfill. That fire reached an abandoned coal mine. It's still burning. To this day, underground, for over 60 years, toxic gases seeped into homes, streets cracked, fires opened holes in sidewalks. The government evacuated the town. Centralia is now abandoned, a modern-day ghost town. Smoke still rises from the ground. There are others, Times Beach, Missouri, abandoned due to dioxin poisoning. Picher, Oklahoma, collapsed due to mining. Rhyolite, Nevada, devoured by the desert. All reminders that when humans push too hard against nature, nature sometimes pushes back. America's largest industrial dead zones. Some dead zones are hidden behind fences. Coal ash ponds, leftovers from power plants, dot the southeast. Many sit next to rivers. Some leak into groundwater, others are one hurricane away from spilling deadly toxins into major cities. Abandoned chemical plants rust across the Midwest. Their poisons leach into the soil. The air above them is still. Oil fields in the Gulf leave scars on the ocean floor, metal skeletons and pipelines over lifeless seabeds. We created these places, and now we pretend they aren't there. But the land remembers. Future dead zones, the ones that are coming. Climate change is redrawing the map of life. As oceans warm, oxygen levels drop. That means more dead zones, bigger, deeper, longer lasting. As droughts worsen, lakes like Lake Mead and Lake Powell may vanish, taking entire ecosystems with them. And melting permafrost in Alaska, it's releasing methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. Some scientists warn it could trigger feedback loops, warming that feeds itself. What happens when the Earth itself begins to choke? The forest that never woke up deep in Northern California lies a stretch of charred land where a wildfire raged so hot, so long, that the forest ecosystem never returned. What once were towering redwoods are now blackened skeletons. No regrowth, no sound, just ashes and silence. Scientists believe the heat sterilized the soil. No seeds survived, no microbes remained. A forest turned into a permanent graveyard. Fire is part of nature, but some fires are too intense. They kill not just trees, but the very potential for life. The Lake of Death in Texas. Lake Meredith once supported thriving communities, but drought, overuse, and contamination turned it into a toxic pit. High salinity levels, decaying organic matter, and chemical leaching made it unsafe to drink or swim. Fishing vanished. Tourism died. The towns nearby withered. Now only dust blows across its shores. Some call it a natural shift. Others say we drained its soul dry. Either way, it is a lake in name only. Dead zones in the sky. America's silent airspace. Most think dead zones only exist in water or on land. But there are places in the sky where life disappears too. In areas of the US like the Four Corners region, methane clouds have been detected, invisible, odorless, and vast. These emissions, largely from fossil fuel operations, choke the sky and make the atmosphere above them unstable. No birds, no insects. Planes avoid them. Satellites show strange patterns over these zones. The sky itself becomes haunted. Conclusion: silence. ISAS a warning: the scariest thing about dead zones isn't the death, it's the silence. No bird song, no insects, no rustling leaves. Just a stillness that feels wrong. Dead zones are not science fiction. They are growing, spreading, reaching into new corners of the earth. And if we're not careful, they will multiply, not with fire, not with war, but with absence. The earth will not scream, it will not cry, it will just go quiet. And by the time we hear that silence, it may already be too late. Subscribe to USA Geography for more terrifying true stories from the edge of science, nature, and forgotten history.